right, it's time to continue with our divisional preview series here on Verts. I'm your host, Harrison Graham. Today, it's the AFC East as we take a look at the Bills, Dolphins, Jets, and Patriots. Who wins this division? We'll go team by team, and I'll let you know at the end of the video who I've got winning the division this year. And before we get to all that, I want to hear from you guys. Who do you think will win the AFC East this year? Will the Bills win it for a fifth straight year? Is this the Jets' year finally? Could Miami break through finally? Don't think it's going to be the Patriots, but hey, you never know. Weirder things have happened. Let us know down in the comment section below. All right, let's take a look at the new look Bills. Obviously a busy offseason for Buffalo. A lot of roster turnover after kind of a wild 2023 season where when they were 6-6 and fired Ken Dorsey, you didn't really know where this thing was going to end up. Some people thought Sean McDermott could be out the door, but they rallied, won the division for a fourth straight year, and should have beat the Chiefs, or at least could have, in the divisional round of the AFC playoffs. But they're looking for a fifth straight divisional championship this year, and a lot of new faces to deal with to try and get that job done. You look at some of the players that exited. Stephon Diggs got traded. Gabe Davis is gone. Tre'Davious White, Mitch Morse, Jordan Poyer, a few other players as well. Also a lot of quality veterans. Now, in a few of those cases, it was probably time. Like Trey White, he wasn't playing at the level he had anymore. Had some injuries, obviously. Diggs was a great player for this team, but you kind of felt the tension rising there. Probably made sense to make a change there. Gabe Davis, you know, I would have been okay if Buffalo brought them back, but they had some salary cap issues, so I'm not surprised that they let him leave. Here's the important thing. You still have Josh Allen. And for my money, Josh Allen is the second best quarterback in the NFL behind Patrick Mahomes. He can do pretty much everything Mahomes can from a physical standpoint. He's a better runner. He just hasn't won at as high of a level as Mahomes, obviously. He's won 3 Super Bowls, but he can do it all. I'd like him to scale back on the turnovers a bit, but he's going to give you a chance to win just about every game. And with him losing some of his key weapons, like a Stephon Diggs, like a Gabe Davis, I think this is a kind of important year for him to really show the NFL, like, yeah, like I'm big time. Like I'm not just really good. I'm one of the best at what I do. I already think he's that guy, but I think this year he can really kind of silence any doubters that are out there. At least for the most part. Now, some people are going to hold him to a Super Bowl standard, but I think he's the second best quarterback going at this point in time. And, you know, as far as the team goes this year, obviously a lot of young guys in there, but I expect Buffalo to be more balanced offensively. I think James Cook is going to have a big year. If you're a fantasy football player, take him. I think they'll run the ball more than they normally do. I think you'll see more quick passing. They'll utilize the tight ends with Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. Can they get enough out of some young guys like Keon Coleman and company? We'll see. But I still think Buffalo is going to be really good. As long as Josh Allen is upright and healthy, their offensive line is still pretty solid. Hopefully Von Miller can contribute this year. I think the Bills, while they may not be quite as star-studded as they have in recent years, I still think they can be a very, very good football team in the AFC. If you want to support for Verts, there's a couple of easy ways to do that. Subscribe. That really helps us. We're closing in on 2,000 subs, just crossed 1,800 free and daily videos, mostly NFL, but some college football as well. And if you want to show love in other ways as well, hit the like button, debate, comment in the comment section below. That really, really helps, and it's fun. I'm interacting with you guys by replying to some of your comments, so we can keep that rolling as well. If you want to support us, those are a few ways to do so. Is this the year for the New York Jets? The longest playoff drought in the NFL and maybe American professional sports? I'd have to double check that. It's been a long time. I think one thing that's pretty clear for the Jets this year is this is a make or break year for the team, for a lot of key figureheads. There's just no doubt. There is a lot of pressure in the Big Apple for the Jets. This is probably the first year in a long time because it's more of a Giants town, but that the pressure is firmly on the Jets. I don't think anyone really expects the Giants to be good. Doesn't mean there's not pressure. Obviously, there's pressure on Daniel Jones, Joe Shane, and Brian Dable entering year 3 there. but they have low expectations on the outside. The outside on the Jets is all over the place. Last year, people thought they could be a Super Bowl contender. That ended after 4 plays when Aaron Rodgers popped his Achilles, and the rest of the year was a train wreck. They just could not function, and with Robert Saleh entering year 4, has yet to be a playoff coach. Aaron Rodgers, 40 years old, coming off an Achilles. Joe Douglas has been under fire, especially after the Haason Reddick situation. Can they deliver? There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of distractions in New York. And look, that's part of having Aaron Rodgers. He's going to generate headlines. He's going to bring in distractions. Whether it's always fair or not, that's the reality of the situation. You knew that going in when you traded for him. It's not your fault he got hurt last year, but the reality is you made that move to be a major contender. And I do wonder, at his age and coming off this significant of an injury, how does he play? How does that impact his play style? Can he still move around at a good enough level to be that guy who can make plays off script? Or is he really going to have to evolve at this point in his career into being a high level pocket quarterback? Because it's not that he can't win from in the pocket. Of course he can. But he's never really been a drop back 40 times, don't move around, and just spread the football around guy. What's made him special and great throughout his career is, yes, he can do that, but when he escapes and gets out and makes plays on the run, that's where he's so hard to defend, because his ability to throw off platform is unique. And, you know, I think he's influenced some of these other young quarterbacks who are doing it now. But if he can't do that anymore consistently, how does that impact him? How does that impact this team, this offense? Because let's face it, the pressure's on. Aaron Rodgers himself said it. We don't win this year, none of us are going to be here. It's not going to work. So I think everybody knows that all eyes are on Aaron Rodgers. And look, I think this is a talented team. Tyron Smith is a huge upgrade at left tackle, but he's injury prone. Aaron Rodgers, when healthy, is an upgrade, even if he's not peak Aaron Rodgers. But he's a little injury prone. He's older. What does that look like? A lot of their key guys can get hurt, man. Vera Tucker's been banged up a lot. Like, can they stay healthy? Can the distractions be minimized? And let's face it, the coaching situation's a question mark too. Robert Saleh, when he was the defensive coordinator in San Francisco, was a great defensive play caller, but he hasn't been calling the plays in New York. So he's a CEO coach, and we don't really know what he does. I don't think Nate Hackett is good at all. I know he's Rodgers' boy, but I would feel better if they had a better play caller offensively. So there's just a lot of question marks here. Talent, but can they overcome the distractions and questions? I don't know. I go back and forth on the Jets. Again, at the end of the video, we will have our full predictions on who wins the division and what does the playoff situation look like, so stay tuned. Let's get to the Miami Dolphins now. After back-to-back wild card appearances and losses, the next step for Miami, 1, is winning the division, and 2, winning at least a playoff game. That's where we need to judge this team at now, because you paid Tua. When you pay your quarterback top dollar, you don't do that to be a 9-8, 10-7 team that loses in the first round of the playoffs every year. Now, 2 years ago, Tua had a concussion, couldn't play in the playoff game, so can't really hold that against him. But last year, they had stranglehold control of the division, choked it away in the final month, and had no chance in their road playoff game against the Kansas City Chiefs. But Harrison, those were historic weather conditions. I got news for you. It's cold in December and January, and the teams that the Dolphins are going to have to get through if they're not playing at home in Miami, play in cold weather. Chiefs, it gets cold. Baltimore, it gets cold. Cleveland, it gets cold. Buffalo, it gets cold. You're going to have to adapt, or you're going to have to get the number 1 seed and have the playoffs run through South Beach. Otherwise, it's going to be tough, because Tua in big games, and especially big games in cold weather, has not played at a high level, has not proven he can do that. He's a very good player. I think he's a top 15-ish quarterback in the NFL when you factor everything in. But there's limitations when the weather starts to change, and that's just the fact of the matter. That's not an opinion. That the numbers tell us that. The eye test tells us that. It's up to him and this team to change that narrative. And that's what my big question is. Can he play better and win these big games? You're not going to win every big game. But he is well below 500 against playoff teams in his career. And we talked about the stat when we talked to about a month ago, but In sub 70 degree weather, he's like 6-14. Sub 70 is not crazy. Sub 50, he's like 1-7. I mean, like at 45 degrees, you got no shot, no chance to win. I mean, I don't know if it's a team toughness issue. I think a lot of it is he's got limited physical skills. So when it's cold and it's wet and it's windy, he's a smaller quarterback, doesn't have the strongest arm. Ball kind of flutters a little bit. He's not a premier athlete, so he doesn't move as well as some of these other premier AFC quarterbacks. So he's going to have to prove to us, especially now, he's judged now among the top guys for what he got paid, that he can at least hold his own in these big games. Because let's face it, up to this point, he just has not done it. So I'm fascinated to see. I'm rooting for him. I got nothing against Tua, but you're expecting postseason success. You're expecting to win the division. Buffalo just had a bunch of roster turnover. You had control of the division last year, let it slip away. Buffalo just had to change a lot of their roster. It feels like it could be now or never. Now, obviously, Tua's going to be here for a few years with this contract, but if you don't win the division this year, when are you gonna? Like, it's going to be harder to have faith moving forward if it doesn't happen this year. And oh, by the way, speaking of the weather, speaking of the big games, look at the final 6 weeks for Miami. At Green Bay, they're pretty good. It's pretty cold up there. First, the Jets at home. It's going to be a tough divisional game. You get them at home, so that's good. At the Texans, dome. I like that, but that's a very good team. San Francisco at home, get them at home. That's good, but another tough team. At the Browns, cold, tough opponent. At the Jets, cold, tough opponent. Not going to be easy. So if you're, trailing in the division by the time you get to that Green Bay game, going to be hard to close that gap and win the division. So you better start hot early, like they have, but can you close well? Can you win? I think 3-3 over this 6 games would actually be good. 4-2 would be amazing. It's a tough stretch. It's all in front of Tua and the Dolphins to prove it this year. I'm fascinated to see if they can. And it's kind of my take. I expect Miami to come out guns blazing. Manageable schedule early. Get some easy opponents at home. There's going to be early season Tua or Tyreek MVP talk. We saw that last year. But in crunch time, in December, in January, can this team win big games in not ideal conditions? That's what I want to see out of the Miami Dolphins here in 2024. And then there's the New England Patriots. Do the Pats have any hope this year? Any hope at all? Because the consensus for the most part on the outside looking in is that this is a team firmly in the mix to have the number 1 pick in 2025. In other words, be the worst team in the NFL. And look, sometimes that's just the case. You get rid of a legend, coaching change, roster shuffling. It takes time, right? I don't think it's fair to expect the Patriots to be like a 7 or 8 win team. But some people think they might win 2 or 3 games, and I can't really argue with those people. They have questions all across the board. First-time head coach who's never even called the defense. First-time defensive coordinator. First-time offensive play caller. Now, Alex Van Pelt was the OC in Cleveland, did not call plays. That was Kevin Stefanski. And you have a very young roster, and you have a quarterback situation that we just don't really know what the sitch is. Who's QB1? The Patriots are one of 2 teams as of this filming to not name a starter. I fully expect it to be Jacoby Brissett, but are they going to be patient and not force Drake Maye into action until he's ready? Is Drake Maye, should they just roll out Drake Maye week 1? I think my answer is I would like to see a confident decision made. I would roll with Jacoby and see how it goes early because this is a bad offensive line. The skill group is not very talented. I'm usually a proponent of getting the rookie out there and learning on the fly, but I think Drake Maye is a little raw. I like what I've seen in the preseason out of him, but what you don't want is to shoot this kid's confidence early. Play Jacoby early and then maybe work Maye out there in the middle of the year, but I'm just really worried they're going to screw up this development because how can I put my faith in this coaching staff? I don't know anything about it. It's a complete unknown. I like Drake Maye a lot. He's my second favorite QB coming out behind Caleb Williams. I had Caleb 1, Drake 2, Jaden Daniels 3. But the situation Maye is in is not ideal. They are clearly the worst team on paper in the AFC East. You got to be patient if you're a Patriots fan. I think what you want to see this year is be competitive, play good defense, and by the middle of the year, get Drake Maye in there and try to build up some confidence heading into 2025. The wins and losses don't matter this year. I know that's weird to hear if you're a Patriots fan after 2 decades of dominating, but just not where this team is right now. Not where this team is right now. Focus on Maye's development and building a competitive culture. So my AFC East predictions after breaking down all 4 teams, I'm sticking with the Bills. I think they win it for a 5th straight year. I don't love the Dolphins' closing schedule. I do think they'll be a wild card team, 9-10 wins, be the 6 or 7 seed in that range. I think the Jets are just on the outside looking in. I just think there's a lot of distractions going on right now. I have no idea how Rodgers is going to play. They feel like a 7-9 win team, knocking on the door, but probably not making it. That's where I've got them. And then the Patriots, I think it's going to be ugly. I really do. I think if I had to pick one team who's going to have the number 1 pick, probably roll with New England. I don't think they're going to be good whatsoever. Would love to be wrong. There's always surprise teams in the NFL, but forget the coaching question marks. The roster's just not that good. You traded your best defensive player. Defense should still be solid, but if you're just abysmal offensively, that only holds up for so long. All right, another division preview in the books. We've got the NFC East next, so be sure to subscribe and be on the lookout for that. If you go to our playlist tab, by the way, on the channel after you subscribe, you'll be able to see our other division previews that have already dropped. We did the NFC and AFC South, AFC East today, NFC East next time. Then we're halfway home, and before you know it, we'll have all 8 divisions covered, and the season will be here. My name is Harrison Graham. Be sure to light up the comments with your thoughts on the AFC East. We'll see you guys soon. Peace.